Thanks for your comments and questions that stem from the last series of blogs, which have been reposted on the site. So I invite you to have a read or a reread or whatever the case may be. I encourage it. I guess from those blogs, the number one question I get asked is that if self-love is the key, how do I begin to love myself? I mean, I get it, but I have a hard time living it. And believe me, I know what you mean. Putting love in action into everyday practice is not as easy as I thought. Not at first anyway. We're so conditioned, right? I grew so accustomed to what was comfortable. Drinking was very comfortable, as is eating for some. Could be gambling for others. Some people shop too much. Very comfortable. Some of us stay with partners who are obviously not good for us. Our addiction, in that case, ends up being another person. And that can happen. And I've touched on that in those blogs. It's certainly easier just to stay where we are. In fact, a lot of people I talk with simply resign themselves to continuing to live, and I love this phrase, a comfortable pain rather than an uncomfortable change. And it is hard work, but I'm living proof it is so, so worth it. And my work continues every day. I first had to take a look at what love is and what it does, and what is love in action, that verb we talked about. What can I do to change my fear-based thoughts? And remember, every thought results in an action, which in turn creates our reality. And we'll be talking the law of thinking in a future blog. The power of our thoughts is mind-boggling, and that's what I've come to discover, but I'll write about that later. I can either see the world as a hostile place, or I can choose to see it as a loving place. And no matter how I choose to see it, I know it will treat me that way. And for so many years, I chose to see it as hostile or negative, and that is exactly what I got back. That is what I was. And when that is what I am, that is what I attract. I attract what I am. I'd run around being a victim of circumstances, everything that was happening around me. I would more often than not think the worst. And when I gave those situations that negative, fear-based energy and kept feeding it, that's the reality that I was creating for myself. I was not love. I was fear. And if you attract what you are, which do I want to attract into my world? And that's when I knew I had to change things around a little bit. Those are our two choices when dealing with others and situations. I was so sick of negative things showing up in my life, but it was my fault because that's what I was putting out there. It's what I was. Envious, fear. Angry, fear. Jealous, fear. Controlling, fear. Manipulative, self-defeating, judging, easily offended, sound familiar? All fear-based. And here's the thing about love, the other choice. Every second of every day, everywhere we turn, whatever I'm doing, I have an opportunity to show love in action. Whether it be toward another person, an animal, a plant, a stranger, a rock, it doesn't matter, but most importantly, toward myself. How did I begin to love myself? Well, it's kind of corny, but I built myself a little house. Not in the literal sense. I call my, see, I'm a big Barry White fan. I call my house Freddy Mac's House of Love. And I know it sounds like a Barry White song, and don't make me sing. Anyway, I took all the attributes of what love is, okay? I took all the attributes of love, and I assigned each one its own space in my little house. The windows might be kindness. The doors are gratitude. The kitchen is giving. These are all loving, love in action. The living room is something else. Anyway, I spent time in each of these rooms. But as any good contractor knows, you can't build a house without a foundation. What it all sits on, what holds everything up. And my foundation, where I had to start, was forgiveness. That's where I had to start that build. I was so quick to hold on to past disappointments, past hostilities, past traumas, etc. It's hard not to. Let's say I've been burned in a relationship. He or she cheated on me, lied. I leave that person, the person who did me wrong, the person who hurt me, the person who ruined my life. You know, it sounds familiar. Well, it's hard to forgive a person who would do such a thing, right? That is, until I realized the most important misconception I had about the loving act of forgiveness. Forgiveness, I want you to really think about this one. Forgiveness is not letting the other person off the hook. Forgiveness is letting me off the hook. Forgiveness is loving myself enough not to let others decide my level of happiness. Forgiveness is love. A forgiving mind is full of love. An unforgiving mind is full of fear. So forgiveness is a gift to myself. Forgiveness frees my mind by no longer allowing another person to occupy space in my head rent-free. So when I forgave, I was finally creating or clearing a space for other things to enter. But until then, there was no room for anything or anyone else. Until I decided to forgive, I was full. There was no room for love to come in. Fear was taking up that space. So was I really loving myself by allowing another person to keep me from moving forward? In a sense, they are controlling me and probably don't even know it. So are they weighing me down? I want to say yes, I'm an addict, I love to blame. But the answer is no. By not forgiving, I am weighing me down. And if the only thing I can control is me, then it's up to me to move forward. And they no longer have my power. Once I experienced how free I felt by forgiving others, I then had to turn my focus back onto me. I mean, forgiving others is huge, but forgiving me is massive. How can I create a loving relationship with myself with all of my mistakes and all of my failures of the past? The guilt I was feeling for all those I had done wrong, the shame I felt when I thought back to what I'd done, the anger I felt toward myself, and I would cry out, what the hell was I thinking? I remember, it wasn't too long ago, I walked into my son's classroom, and on the wall above the chalkboard, there was a sign that read something like, you can't have success without failure. And I've said before, I now live in a world of what was I learning, not what was I thinking. I'm not going to be perfect in the sense that I'll never screw up. What I needed to do was accept my so-called failures as lessons, not mistakes. These things happen in my life to make me a better person. So when I change the way I see things, it makes it a whole lot easier to accept them. And I think it's Dr. Dyer has a great quote, and it's, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I needed to realize I am perfect just the way I am. So is there anybody in your life you haven't forgiven? Is there anyone in your life that still lives rent-free in your head? Isn't it time to let yourself off the hook? Try to forgive someone today. You know, they don't even have to know you do it. It's for you, not them. There's a great quote, again, I'm quote boy, ask my Facebook friends. This one's from Don Miguel Ruiz. I really recommend the book Mastery of Love or any of the series. Whatever happens around you, don't take it personally. Nothing other people do is because of you. It's because of themselves. I'm not saying you're not going to feel emotions. Sometimes, yeah, you're going to feel those comfortable pain thoughts of anger, fear, resentment, fear, regret, fear. Feel them. It's okay. Don't carry them with you, though. If you're still angry, be angry. Be with the emotion, process it, learn from it, feel it. Hugely weird concept for me at first, because the addiction, whether it's alcohol, gambling, too many purses, too many shoes, whatever the addiction might be, the addiction was there to avoid feeling any pain. Feel it. Process it, learn from it, then try to let it go. Letting go. We'll talk about that more in the future. Clear a space in you for something better to enter. Remember what I talked about. You're full unless you clear that space. Forgiveness. That way, you are one step closer to building your own house of love that can be only built one way, and that's from the inside out. So, now that we have the foundation built, we'll check out the rest of the house in future blogs. Love to you. Peace.